Joan Esposito. Live, local, and progressive. Filling in today for Joan, radio personality and author, Turi Ryder.
324, I am Turi Ryder, and as promised, you're about to meet somebody who found something, thought he owed something, and it turned out that instead he has an opportunity to give something. I'd like to introduce you to Chuck Hildebrandt. He's a retired digital retired digital marketing executive. And he was a library scofflaw. Mr. Hildebrandt, welcome. You're on WCPT.
Great. Hi, Ms. Curry. Thank you very much for having me on.
Tell me the story of what happened on your bookshelf.
Well, okay, so I have a bookshelf with, hundreds of books. And, I don't peruse them every day. I don't think people who have a lot of books do. But, one day, probably about 6 years ago or so, I happened to be looking at the shelf and looking at my books, and I saw this particular book, and it was called Baseball's Zaniest Stars. And I'm like, hey, I remember this when I was a kid. I still have this. How about that? And as I examined it more closely, I took a look at the spine, and I saw there was a Dewey Decimal number on it.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no, really? Oh, no.
For those who don't know, the Dewey Decimal System is how the library keeps track of its books.
Right, yeah. It's a competitive system to the Library of Congress system, which I think is more common. That's the one the Chicago Public Library use, but a lot of libraries still use Dewey Decimal. So I saw this, and I'm like, boy. So I opened up the front cover, and in the front cover is a sleeve with a piece of paper in it.
Oh, boy.
I don't know if you're old enough to remember this.
Oh, yeah. The little pocket, the little manila pocket with the little lined card in it and it typed on the name of the book.
Right. So this was actually it wasn't one of those cards that had, different dates on it for every date it was taken out and due. This was actually a slip that was specific to this due date, December 4th, 1974.
Oh, dear.
And I thought, oh, boy, how about this?
Oh, boy.
And so at that point, it had been 44 years at that point. And so I thought, maybe I should take it in when I go back into Detroit. But then I thought, well, wait a minute. It's not like anybody's hammering me to get the book back, right? So why don't I just wait till the 50th anniversary? Because 44 years is prosaic, but 50 years, that's poetic, right?
Yeah, that's a nice round. Yeah, that's what anniversary is that? The golden anniversary? Something like that.
It was the golden anniversary for the golden book. And, So I thought, we'd all heard about stories about, library books that were overdue by 30 or 40 or 50 years or whatever. So I thought, I'll go in on the 50th anniversary. And the way I imagined it was I would walk into the library, ask for the librarian, show her the book. We all have a big laugh. We'd contact the media, they'd write it up. They'd get good publicity. I'd get my name in the paper. It'd be a win-win, right?
Sure.
I thought that would be cool.
Yeah.
I like reading those stories.
Yeah.
So what I wasn't expecting, though, is when I contacted them, they weren't really even interested.
They did not want baseball's zaniest heroes? They didn't want it?
I can't imagine why they wouldn't. I mean, but yeah. So I wrote them an email. So I found the name of the librarian. She's a lady named Oksana Urban. Turned out to be a real nice lady, but she's very much a librarian.
Yes.
And she has a job to do, right? So this was not part of the job, I don't think. So I wrote her an email, and I didn't hear back. And then I wrote her another email, and I didn't hear back. And then I called and left a voicemail, and I didn't hear back. And I wrote one more email, and I didn't hear back. So, okay. So the due date's coming. And
the 50th due date. This is the 50th due date coming.
It would have been the 50th due date that was coming up, exactly.
Okay.
So the 50th anniversary. So to be clear on that. So I went back into Detroit for Thanksgiving with my family, and I stopped by the Warren Public Library. And I asked for Miss Urban. And she came out from the back, and I said to her, "Hi, I'm Charles Hildebrandt, and I'm the guy with the 50-year overdue book." And she says to me, "Oh, yeah, I know who you are." And I'm like, what? And I didn't say this to her, but I was like, wait a minute. So you're basically telling me you've gotten all these emails, you know who I am, and you didn't get back to me?
Yeah, this is not good. No, I'm sorry. This is a bad librarian. I don't care what you say. She's not a nice lady at all. Nice lady would have said, oh, my gosh, I'm so sorry. And your book, and did you enjoy it? I hope you've had a few chances to read it. What kind of crappy librarian is that? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Right. It wasn't that bad. I mean, I'll tell you what, though, she did do. I handed her the book. She looked at it, and she looked at me over her glass. She put her glasses down, on the bridge of her nose.
As librarians do, yes, unless they're having them on a chain around their neck.
She didn't have the chain. I was going to say, yeah, she didn't have the chain, but she should have had the chain. And she says to me, I'm very disappointed that you would keep an overdue library book for 50 years. And I was looking in her eye for a sparkle, so I wasn't sure if I saw it.
Is she kidding? But, is she serious? Yeah.
I think she kind of was kidding because she did lighten up a little bit during the visit. So she said, well, listen, I mean, you can hang on to the book. We're going to waive the fine, and that's fine. I'll let the commission know that you want to arrange, to return the book or contact the media or something. They'll get back to you. And maybe in a week or two. But they're very busy, right? They're very busy. But if they can find time, they'll get back to you. So they're so busy with library administration that they can't deal with something as mundane as a 50-year overdue book, right?
Right. Well, because it's Detroit. Take that, Detroit. Go ahead.
So so they never did get back to me.
Of course not. It's freaking Detroit. In Chicago, we would have gotten back to you because Chicago's librarians rock. Okay, go ahead.
They do.
Yes.
They are very good. I will say that because I have 16 books out from the Chicago Library right now. And I promise you I'm going to return them on time.
I bet you will. And besides, you don't need another Oksana, whatever her name is. How can people not have any appreciation for the poetry of that moment? Anyway, go ahead. So now you've got the book, and she has spurned your media effort to return it, and she hasn't been particularly welcoming or nice to you. And there's just nothing positive that I can think of to say about this librarian. But you find the moment. What do you do?
So what happened was I didn't hear back from them in the following week. So what I did is on the 50th anniversary, I posted a Facebook post and just basically telling the story. And I got, maybe 50 likes and 50 comments. And I thought, this is going to be the end of that. But it turns out one of my Facebook friends is a fellow named Neil Rubin. He is a columnist for the Detroit Free Press, and I probably connected to him through some baseball contacts I had. He sent me a personal message and said, hey, I think you got a story here. You want to talk? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So we talked. We had a lot of laughs. It was really great. And then on, I think it was the Saturday, I think that was the 14th, it posted on thefree.com and then in the newspaper the next day. A couple hours after it posted online, I get a call from a fellow named Ed White from the Associated Press who I talked to him. I gave him my version. He wrote up his version of my story.
Did it say rude librarian doesn't even want book back? Shame on her.
No, it didn't say that.
Okay, all right.
Matter of fact, he ended up talking to her too.
Okay.
But and I do want to say I want to say this about Oksana Urban. I think when I brought this to her, she wanted nothing to do with it, right? This was way outside of her daily routine. But she softened up. She took a couple of interviews, gave a couple of quotes. I thought she ended up being a very good sport about it. So I just want to be clear
that's
about that.
you. That's not me. Okay, so I'm hard. I'm mean. And I'm a library. I got married in a library. I love libraries, and I like the librarians.
Oh, nice.
Well, it had been the library. It's the cultural center. But at that time, you weren't allowed to get married in it. It's my only Chicago clout story. I'll tell it another day. Yes. Okay, so go on. Okay.
Please do.
Yes.
Yeah, So that was the story that went out in the wire. That's probably the story that you and your folks saw that got you interested in calling me. So
and then what happened?
So what happened was, when I read the Free Press story, now I knew going in that there was going to be a fine of about $4,000. And I thought, oh, yeah, this is funny, $4,000 fine. Ha, 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 isn't that great? Well, when I read the story, they calculated what the fine would have been at 25 cents a day. It would have been $4,563.75. And I think the 75 cents part is the thing that really got me, right?
It always does.
And,
yes.
Right, and so that's what told me this is a real number. This is real money. It's not theoretical anymore.
Right.
And I started feeling a little ashamed, a little embarrassed. And I thought, wow, now I got this number hanging over my head. Like, what am I going to do? And in like half a second, I thought, hey, start a charity thing. Go on GoFundMe, do a charity thing for a literacy charity. And Reading is Fundamental is the one literacy charity that people have definitely heard of and would feel comfortable contributing to. So that's what I did on the GoFundMe. I set it up for them to raise the amount of the fine on their behalf. And as of this morning, we're a little over $5,100.
I love this story. And you get to keep the book, right?
I get to keep the book, and I get to keep the due date slip, too. That's the best part.
Yes. I really love that story, and I love anytime. I was a Laubach adult literacy volunteer, so anytime that people do things to promote literacy, I'm delighted, and I'm delighted that you could make a moment to talk to us. And if people want to continue donating, where should they go?
So what they can do is that they can go to GoFundMe.com. That's GoFundMe, one word, obviously.
Yeah, we know
and
that
when
one.
You get there, right. When you get there, do a search for library book. That's all you need. Library book. My GoFundMe will be the first result. When you click through, you can then donate there. And
cool.
I just want to make clear that not a single penny passes through my hand. Every dollar goes directly to Reading is Fundamental, so people can feel comfortable that the money is going to go where they want it to when they donate it.
And they get a tax deduction.
You get a tax deduction, so you better move quickly because you got about 8.5 hours to get one.
Yeah, go. Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate your time. It was a great story, and I love what you did with it. And peace to all librarians, and may you develop senses of humor if you don't have one yet. Thanks a lot.